It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Luzanne, as you can see. Suzanne. It sounds like a Suzanne, but with an L, if that makes it easier. I am a coach. I'm also a workplace culture specialist and consultant. I was with Mindvalley for 6 over years. I was a head of workplace culture with Mindvalley. And now I'm doing a lot of consultant and contractor work with them right now, and also with a lot of companies in the Middle East. I'm right now based in Abu Dhabi. So it's been a transition for me. And Andy, I'm sorry, I didn't get your question. The other question?
No problem. If just briefly, what's the most important thing HR can do to support organizations with all the changes that 2020 is facing them with?
Wow, big question. And I think there are many areas that we can definitely do a lot more on this. But one area that I'm particularly very invested in is definitely in emotional and well-being of the workforce, which I'll be covering in my keynote later on.
Fantastic, thank you. And I think that's a really interesting thing that we'll hopefully get to in this panel, that human element of HR as well. So Michelle, maybe you could continue. I think you're muted.
Okay, all right. All right, hi everybody. I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Michelle Chiu. Thank you for inviting me to this illustrious panel. My background is a little bit on the psychology and HR side. Earlier this year, I just left my last company. I was the CHRO for a medical equipment company. Before that, it was an automotive conglomerate and stuff like that. So about 20 years in human resources, but on and off also actually practicing more as a counselor and psychologist for the organization. So I always have to look into the human element. So what Andy was saying is that what are the transformations or changes that we look forward to because of the pandemic that's going on, like some of the discussions that we had yesterday about the technology to help with work from home and stuff like that. But a lot of companies are still trying to grasp that because we don't have the internet facilities. We keep having software problems, or it's because of security systems in the companies that don't allow people to actually access online technologies and stuff like that. So a lot of this has to be adaptive, and it has to move rather fast. It's because there's not much time. So companies have to take that into consideration, whether providing laptops for everyone or a subscription to an internet line, and not so much restrictions in terms of, closing ports technology or VPN to be able to connect online.
Fantastic, thank you. That word adaptive is a great one. Farah, I will pass across to you now for your opening thoughts as well. Thank you.
Hi, can you hear me? Yeah. So I am Farah Osman. I'm the Vice President People and Capability of Magic. It is actually a government-linked company under the Malaysia government. So we are actually under MOSI, Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovations. And your questions about the kind of challenges and how we keep up, with the challenges. Well, basically, like what I've shared earlier on, being a government-linked company, a GLC, it's a bit unique because, I was coming from the industry. So, when the industry is all about profit making, it's all about bottom line and, keeping up to the numbers and things like that. But in a government organization, what is important is how you carry out the mandate. And, so that's why I keep on highlighting on how do we strike the balance, within the parameters that we have. And so in my approach in HR particularly, we focus really on the communications. We focus on how we continuously engage, not just internally with our staff members, but most importantly, how we enroll and invite other government agencies and ministry to collaborate with us and co-curate Well, through this strong cultural engagement, how we manage the pandemic challenges is we always think beyond. We always think about, what can we do as a government agencies to help our entrepreneurs and startup. And we constantly look at the feedback that we get, not just from our internal team members, but also from our stakeholders around us and our startups. Other than that, I think when we face challenges in terms of the slowdown in our operations and productivity, we realize that we can leverage on our learning opportunities to quickly upscale and rescale our people with new tools. And that's all from me.
Fantastic. That's great. Thank you so much. So everything I'm hearing so far, I've heard the word adaptive, I've heard responsive, I've heard collaboration, co-curation. Zafar, let's bring you in. If you introduce yourself, are these themes that you think are relevant to HR in 2020?
Sorry, can you repeat, please, Andy?
I was just going to bring Zafar into the conversation there and just get his introduction and see if these are themes that he thinks are coming through for HR in 2020.
Hi, can you hear me? Great. Thank you so much, Andy. It's a pleasure talking to you and very learned, esteemed group here. My name is Zafar Usmani. I'm the CEO of a management and human resource consulting company called Excelerate. You can see the details. My main challenge during these days have been managing and transforming organization. You see, we've moved on from the classical change management approach, which was more of a linear progression, to a geometric progression change, which is marked by disruption, marked by artificial intelligence, and now with post COVID-19 world. So I think that's a huge challenge, and the challenge is also only manageable with dealing and collaboration of people, which is not possible in the current state of mind. So my key learning and message to HR is we need to first stage unlearn what we have learned so far and throw it out and look into the totally zero-based where we are, the new organization, the state of mind of the human resource that we have, the classical learning and the handicaps they have in terms of their apprehensions and fear from entering into the new era, and what are the restraining factors in their learning, and address that. So human resource is the only in any organization which can take the organization to the next phase, next level, and they have to understand this first and take ownership and completely change the classical way of doing things, dealing with people. People management, people mindset change is the key to success, and HR readiness to bring that mindset is going to be the critical success factor.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Some great insights there. And Adnan, I'd like to move to you now, because obviously you're running a quite large organization. I'd like to know if we could get your introduction, and also are some of these themes things that you're seeing coming through in 2020?
Thank you, Andy. Farah told me that you asked me as well. Maybe there was some technical problem. Now, thank you very much again for inviting. My name is Iqbal, and I'm heading an organization, a trained organization. It's quite mature and core organization established in 1933. And currently, I'm the CEO of that company in Pakistan. As well, I'm a management accountant, and I'm graduate from ICMAP, your knowledge partner here. So let me give you my take on what the HR leaders going to be in 2020. So let me explain that the leaders are already working hard to navigate the people actually to that digital process. But the process was a bit slow, definitely, because the future seems a bit far. But due to this pandemic factor, the future is right now actually. And now these leaders are busy, because I am actually involved in that corporate structure, so I can see that leaders are working around the clock to making the business plans, the contingencies plan, the uncertainty plans, as focus on the cost reduction. Layoffs are there definitely. But the problem is here that all are these complicated problems, but the known and the predicted one. But we are now into the arena of complex problems which are unknown and unpredicted and never encountered before. So complicated problems were used to be done a linear thinking process. You have a steps over there. You have to identify the problems, and you have to take the variables. You have to cater it down. You can skip the variables as well, and you have to choose among the best available. But in the complex scenario, I think this mindset has to be changed, because that orthodox system is not going to work. So for the leaders to be successful in 2020, I think that mindset has to be changed from the complicated process to the complex process. And maybe I have time, I can explain what steps is going to be to implement that.
Absolutely, we will definitely try and get that insight. That's great, thank you. Michelle, I'd like to bring you back in at this point. We're talking about this shift in mindset, and you've obviously have some great HR experience at some large and complex organizations. As Adnan was kind of speaking to just now, there's this kind of shift almost from an HR function of paperwork to an HR function of people, and now that transition. Quite traditionally, the people stuff was the fluffy stuff. But when you need to take metrics and data to drive these changes across an organization, how does HR adapt to go from the measurable to the stuff that may traditionally have just been seen as more kind of fluffy?
Well, the thing is, every time when we measure, performance and stuff like that, we have a tendency to just measure what we can see, physically see, like sales, units or a certain service or time and stuff like that. But the thing is, what we're trying to measure more these days is you can see the percentages or weightage of people's behavior, their attitude, the efforts made. That we have to be able to see that person has potential. We tend to look at people based on the position they are, the salary that they are being paid, and that is a cost. But the thing is, nobody sees past that. And you have to always plan for the future. So HR's job is not just the month-to-month payments, the benefits and stuff like that, but we have to actually build on that talent, to build for that future. And we have to see the kind of talent that they have, their potential, and we have to groom them. And leadership has a heavy responsibility to actually bring that forward. They have to talk to these people. What is it that they need? Whether it's training, a pep talk, time off, it can be anything. We take for granted that everybody's just happy with the salary and everything at home is just fine. We don't take into account mental well-being, mental health, which I'm a heavy proponent of, is because we talk about physical, ailments and stuff like that. But the thing is, everybody has all these kind of stresses. Everybody has stresses. And right now, during this pandemic, I could tell you, I only took a short time to take a break, and I didn't know a pandemic was coming. And then suddenly, my services as a consultant or as a psychologist became, front and forward, just like human resources, because people were stressed, whether because of isolation or because of too much family members, people are quarreling, or people are worried about, getting sick, family members getting COVID-19, and then, people can't be productive anymore because their mind is, turning into paranoia and panic all the time. So all that also has to take into account when it comes to people working, whether it's from home or in the office. Is what people are, thinking of? Can they be productive? Can they continue to grow in such an environment? So when things and dynamics change, especially one of this global scale, we have to be able to know that we have to talk to our people. Especially if companies right now are cutting pay or letting people go because of cost overruns or overheads and stuff like that. So these are the kind of things that the companies need to also build on their talent for the future when they start making money, instead of thinking about this, cutting costs.
Absolutely. So some great insights there. Thank you so much. Zafar, let's bring you back in on this. You have some amazing experience over the years in some very complex environments. and corporate environments. And I'm really interested in something Michelle said around it's leadership's responsibility to understand what people need and be able to kind of deliver that platform for success, despite what the world may be throwing at us. But I'm interested to kind of shift that perspective slightly. Do you think that leaders are ready for that shift and to be able to deliver that? And if so, or if not, what do you think needs to happen to enable leaders to be able to provide that platform?
Well, thank you, Andy, again. I think the first and very simple answer is leadership is not ready to really understand where we are and what are the perspectives in the future. For the simple reason, I am a leader today because of my education and my experience, which has brought me here. And it's difficult for me today to understand that whatever has brought me here is really giving me some insight, but it is not the thing that will take me to 2025 and 2030. We have to have a totally different set of, be ready for the different set of world. And we were going through this thing, automation and disruption and artificial intelligence, but the biggest atomic bomb that has fallen now is the corona, which has completely changed things. Because right now at this moment, you and me sitting in London, and I am in Pakistan, and Xanne in the Abu Dhabi, and Malaysia, and we are sitting together and talking right now, collecting our learnings and wisdom together. It has been made possible, hats off to corona. Had that not happened, this capability that we are leveraging today in the last 5-6 months, the connectivity that it has provided, the digitization process, which has been taken several years ahead because of this lack of travel, inability to go and meet. So, it's becoming now a new norm to have our meetings with our employees all over we don't have to travel to meet them. We don't have to call them all to office. So there are two things that we need to learn. One, connectivity is now at totally a different level. We are connected to everyone 24/7, and we can leverage that as an advantage. Another way we can leverage it as an advantage is because, especially when we're talking about empowering women and getting them, I have been in the organization for a long time, and I have tried to always work on getting more and more women into work in American Express, to the regional, even everywhere. The issue was that when you hire a bright, talented graduate, she gets married, then the family obligations, and then the decision making is whether this is the right decision, or you find ways around it. Now, I'm saying it is gone, it's history. Now, any woman can work exactly and create that value equal to the person who's sitting in the office. Exactly that, even better, sitting at home or scheduling time or staggering the time and connecting to the office, connecting to the people, connecting to the team, connecting to the customers, connecting to, all the stakeholders, any time of convenience, and manage the home equally well. So this has taken us to a totally different paradigm. So these are the two things. One, our leadership's readiness to operate and understand the new environment. And, we're still understanding, we're still absorbing. While medical doctors are trying to understand what is corona behavior and all, we're still, as an HR and business leaders, trying to understand what are the repercussions, what are the advantages flowing or disadvantages. And I'm saying there's a lot of creativity flowing. It needs to flow. This conference, Eddie, and again, thank you for getting us all together here. It's a brilliant. These are the things that should happen more often, with more space and time to learn from each other, because this is the brainstorming. So I think we're sitting on a very fascinating point in the history of management sciences development, and putting our heads together and moving is going to be the key challenge.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. There's so much there. I want to 100% make sure we touch on diversity, because I think that's really important in 2020, and we will come to that shortly. But first, Luzanne, I just want to pick up with you. This idea, we've heard a lot about connection and the relationship between people and organizations and management. And do you think in this kind of transformation of organizations and the way we interact and the way we connect, are we moving to more of a position where it's a kind of coaching relationship between teams and individuals and leadership? And is that the way forward?
Thanks, Andy, for the question. Yes, I do believe that is the way forward. With coaching itself, coaching is really just a tool that managers and leaders can use in terms of communication. And I'm sure that for many of our panelists here who have being coached or who are coaches themselves, you will know the power of coaching, right? And how that constitutes to effective communication. And so many other organizations are picking that up. And I think really for HR as well is to really go back to what is HR in the very first place. It's human resources. The human element needs to be there, right? It's always people over policies and never policies over people. And I think in a lot of ways, HR gets that wrong in a lot of companies where it's always policies first, right? But we forget that HR comes from the people element, the human element. So remember that HR is always about people over policies. And then how do we now create new areas, new ways, new processes that can enable these people to thrive in every condition that they are in? I love what Zafar shared about unlearning. And I think this is the best time to unlearn everything that we think we know about how HR should function and how HR should run in any organization. Because think about it, in so many companies, almost virtually everyone is a remote worker. And, in Mind Valley, we actually adopted this about 2 or 3 years ago. And we started to see, that there might be a time in the near future, which actually happened now, that everyone would be a remote worker. And we geared up for that about 2 years ago. And so there was a lot of flexibility, even in terms of the roles that we are hiring, right? The status of people's position. Not everyone is going to be a full-timer. There could be part-timers, there could be contractors, there could be experts or specialists. And so I think for HR as well is to be very flexible in terms of how do you want to enable people to thrive in the position that you need them to have and in the environment that they're in? Because think about it, with this pandemic, it just goes to show that, the location base is not going to be so important anymore. People want to go back to their home countries. People want to be back with their families. So how can we still have those talents in the companies and in the organizations while also helping them, encouraging them in every environment that they're in?
Absolutely. I love that. I love that point of really kind of big point of enabling people to thrive in all conditions, regardless of what post they're in. And I think that's a great part of this kind of shift that HR can enable. So Farah, I would like to bring you back in at this point. And I'd like to just grab we talk a lot about innovation and creativity, and when the world's changing fast, organizations have to adapt and HR needs to kind of fuel that. Do you think like an entrepreneurial mindset is really important for anyone, regardless of the position they're in, because that's how they can contribute to this kind of quick responsive change?
So yes, in the beginning of my speaking engagement just now, I share with all of you about agility, about resilience, and about flexibility. And these are actually the DNA of entrepreneurs. And I believe in business or in an organization like Magic. This is very important, especially for a HR like myself. How I have to constantly unlearn, relearn, and learn new things, because otherwise I will not be relevant to many people, especially the young generations. And it is very, very, very important that we stay agile and also open, about feedback, and also how to improve the way we manage. And also we need to pivot maybe in our management style, especially when Xanne, she highlighted how it's very interesting how you said that we cannot be managing our people the same way, because this is the time of crisis, and during this difficult time is also where many of our startups didn't make it. During this time, many of our startups, just die. And how do we actually help the rest of the startup to sustain is how we help ourselves to sustain. And that requires resilience in our mindset and steadfastness. So we can't be fixed in what we believe. We have to stay connected with the reality out there and with the reality inside. And at the same time, there's not much room in terms of resources, because during those days before the pandemic, we can quickly grow our team if we need to, but during this time is where we might want to stay prudent, but not also compromising on what we need to deliver to the people out there. And I hope I have answered your question.
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you. That's great. Just a quick reminder to everybody watching: you can add questions in now. We'll try and start bringing some of your questions into the chat. We have about 10 more minutes to go. So Michelle, I'd just like to bring you back in on that point around that kind of resilient mindset in the face of a shift in reality. How practical is it for HR to play a part in kind of driving that resilience?
Resilience is a very simple word, but unfortunately for the human mind, it's not that easy. And we're talking about across cultures. As I've been practicing HR for 20 years in psychology, and I can tell you, when you're working in different cultures, different environments, I travel to different countries and stuff like that, it's the mindset. I mean, I was talking to a friend earlier on about, what is the difference between having to operate here in Asia and in the United States or in the UK, is because the main thing is the collectivistic and individualistic kind of mentality. We cannot, here when I operate mostly in Asia, we cannot even get people to even voice themselves, to open up. Okay, and then, so if you can't even find the confidence, how do you find the resilience? Everything is like, okay, my boss asked me to do this, so I'll do this, even though I disagree or I have a suggestion or something like that. So resilience for human resources is part of that human factor we're talking about. We are human resources. It's not just we have training and all that, and then for soft skills and stuff like that, but it's something that you have to teach people, to continuously get people to foster it and utilize it and go through difficult times. Whether it's personal and professional, we take for granted that, your personal life is your personal life, nothing to do with a company. But it's not true. It's not that simple for a mind to compartmentalize and say that it has nothing to do with the company. We hire an employee for everything. So if you want to cultivate anything from resilience to confidence to any of their potential and traits, we have to be able to find out whether or not they have that capability, whether or not they are willing to actually pursue it. You can tell somebody, okay, in their assessment, okay, you need more resilience, you need more confidence. Then what? What are you going to do about it? Leaders and human resources need to talk to this employee and says, okay, if you want to move to the next step, if you want to take up on this new role, what is it required? Why is it required? And kind of different roles they can take in order to show such characteristics. So it's our responsibility as leaders, not just human resources, because we're not there 24/7. I had a lot of challenges trying to get leaders to be leaders. We use that word very loosely, but actually as leaders, we should be able to, play that role. There's a difference between a manager and a leader. A leader really leads. A manager follows. Okay, so that is why we had to spend more time creating that landscape in order for people to actually start showing their potential, whether it's resilience or any other traits that we need.
Fantastic. Thank you for that insight. Okay, so I'm going to put Zafar on the spot now. So Fad's just jumped back in. I think we have some questions coming in from the audience. Fad, I'll let you read out the first question, and we'll bring Zafar in on this one.
Okay. Jan Zezak has a question. With the flexible place of work and war for talent, with the flexible place, somebody's phone is ringing. All right. With the flexible place of work and the war of talent, how do you predict large corporations tackle the scenario if moving to another country? Tax equalization. Who would like to take that?
Let's ask Zafar to jump in on this one, then I think we'll follow up with Adnan.
And I think Xanne was making that point also, that the geographical presence to a particular country for a talent is becoming less critical now. And you have the global world experts at your disposal. It has a tremendous opportunity from 2-3 perspectives. One, people are also questioning the need for having large offices, the cost that you incur in holding offices, allocating sitting spaces to each individual. And, this is a big cost. And a lot of companies have started actually closing or reducing the building size and all, so infrastructure. So you've got a lot of financial savings from there, and ability to get the best talent from across the globe to your time, and you can leverage the combination of cost savings, which gives you more ability to get the better quality talent, pay them more, give them more to contribute and add value, and engage them. And you just as I was saying, we're learning how to synergize all these factors together and come up with a new world strategy, new management strategy, where everybody, every organization gets into more return on income. I mean, for organizations, the stakeholders, expectations are better profitability and shareholders' value. That is what can be done. You have a greater level of customer satisfaction, because we can satisfy customer with the quality and innovative products and services, and also much more satisfied employees. Employee engagement, motivation, and empowerment. So look at from an organization perspective, we are looking into 3 things. We're looking into all the stakeholders, the investor, the customers, and employees, sitting at an opportunity of benefiting in a much larger way. The only difference is the organizations who have the creativity, innovation. It's like seeing the opportunity, grabbing it, and not waiting long enough to do that. We have got studies of organizations which died thinking. So Kodak, etc. I don't even know everyone is expert here. They just deliberated. Okay, so let's watch. Let's see what's going to happen. So it's not the question. This is the time you find the opportunity, grab it. So speed of response from the senior management, speed of response from the leadership has to be like light speed. And they are not.
I'd love to just pick up on that point. Thank you so much for that amazing insight. There's so much there. We're running very quickly out of time, so I want to bring Adnan back in from an organizational point of view. How do you feel about the kind of practicalities of this speed of response and the things that Zafar was saying just now? Do you have any practical advice to give?
Can you hear me, Andy? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Zafar has added very well. In fact, the issue I think is the leadership. Every panelist has mentioned it as well. Actually, definitely there are the infrastructure, there are policies, procedures, but I must say that the leadership has to realign themselves in order to address this unpredictable situation, in fact. So definitely externally they are encountered with many stakeholders, but I think they have to empower their organization internally first in order to tackle all the challenges which are being faced due to this pandemic and the technological acceleration, I think. So first it needs to understand, I think we first need to understand that the mindset has to be changed. The orthodox things will not work here. The one and last thing which I want to particularly mention here, that
okay, we have about 30 seconds, so.
Okay, so
very quickly,
I must say that the whole performance management system, in order to motivate, in order to retain, in order to attract the new talent, the humanity has to be back to the human resource. It has to exit from the compliances, policies, practices. It has to be adopt the flexibility, the positive assumptions, and the self-management and trust as well. And the training definitely will play the vital role.